Welcome to Moving in Stereo, Episode 1. My name is Connor, and you know me from the host of Rocket Bomb's Rocket Talk, and this is kind of the sister podcast to it. This is actually the actual official Episode 1. We did kind of a backdoor pilot where we were introducing ourselves, me, Tyler, and Court, kind of doing our Mount Rushmore of music. And over the course of this podcast, we want to just go into our favorite albums, our favorite songs. We want to give you guys a look into our tastes and how our tastes have evolved. This first episode, I have my brother Tyler here joining me from Cleveland. We're talking about Pearl Jam's Jeremy from the album 10. We're just going to break that down. And of course, we're going to dive into the song, the meaning of the song, the music video. But we also want to give you, the listeners, our background of music and why this song touched us, why this song is as good and moving as it is. So, Tyler, say hi and just tell people about yourself.
Hi, and I don't know what I would tell them. I don't do anything else other than teaching in this podcast.
That is precisely what I want you to dive into, like your musical background, and I'll dive into mine. And how about our relationship to each other?
Well, you and I have known each other since day one, literally, because you're my twin brother.
What the fuck?
My identical twin brother. Sorry to break that news to you, Connor, but it's true. As a matter of fact, we shared a room for 16 years. Yeah. I've blocked most of those memories as well, so you don't need to feel bad at all.
Yeah, we did bunk beds for a while, and then we did mattress on the floor for probably just under a year, and then...
Not only that, but we went through puberty at the same time and in the same room.
Oh, that sucked.
Yeah, it sure did. It's so much testosterone and anger.
Well, that kind of fuels some of the conversation to where our music tastes evolved. But one thing I do want to mention is, you know what really caught our attention for music? Guitar Hero 3.
Guitar Hero? Oh, I knew you were going to say that. Guitar Hero 3 did. Because, I mean, other than that, I was just listening to what Dad had on the radio. And then Monica, our sister Monica, brings home Guitar Hero 3. And we start playing, and I'm like, wow, these songs are really good.
Oh,
hey, look, here's a Slow Ride by Foghat. I know this because Dad played this. And
that was one of the very first bops that you and I, aside from Ballroom Blitz by Sweet.
Oh my God, yeah, we would play those songs on repeat all the time.
And the girl,
I think Dad got really pissed off.
I wonder if it'll turn into a Ballroom Blitz.
Ballroom Blitz.
Ballroom Blitz. It's. Yeah, those were the days, and we're turning 25 this month, and that's it's gonna be interesting for some of the listeners. The listeners who know us, it won't be surprising, but for anyone who's new to listening to us and don't know who we truly are, like cassettes, vinyl, CD, and digital. That's kind of the way we consume music. We consume it all of it. Most people do digital. There's a large growing interest of people our age in their early 30s all the way down to mid to early 20s of people consuming audio via cassette and vinyl, and that's kind of where this the comeback of vinyl is evident because of how expensive they are.
Oh yeah, and every single music store I go into, they have an entire section dedicated to cassettes and to vinyl records, and
new music.
Oh yeah, of new music too.
You can get the $2.
I remember when I heard that Macklemore released whatever album it was on cassette, and at first I thought douche, but then I'm like, oh, wait a minute, there's actually kind of a growing market for that stuff again. I don't know why cassettes though, because out of CDs, cassettes, and vinyl records, cassettes is definitely the weakest of the links.
It's the most inferior of all of those.
It so is. I mean, it's fun to rewind and hear it. But
yes,
it's that's about it.
When I first moved into the apartment, so for those of you who don't know, me and my wife, we were gone from Rocket Talk for a very long time. She's only been on once, because I was moving and getting a new job. And when we moved in here, I took time to alphabetize my vinyl and my cassettes.
Ooh, good for you.
Okay, that's not even kind of the reaction I was looking for, but I mean, it's not surprising that was
Sorry,
the reaction.
I mean, that's really cool. I don't have enough albums or even like a shelf to put them on because they're all just in a box because I don't have any furniture. But I know that one day I will get there.
When you and Madison move in together, she'll be furnishing the entire apartment. Let's go right into Jeremy, shall we? So Pearl Jam 10 was, I think, considered me and Tyler's first favorite album, other than Guns N' Roses' greatest hits.
Oh yeah, I think that was one of our first shared albums that you and I both had.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Which one of us bought that? No. I think that was a Christmas gift. Yeah.
Yeah, Dad got it for us, and so we had that CD player that also had a place to plug in the MP3 players on top, and we would listen to Guns N' Roses and Pearl Jam. And the great thing about Pearl Jam 10 is how strong the album starts. I think it's strong all the way through. Tyler thinks it drops off just a little bit at the end, but he's also a way bigger Pearl Jam fan than I am, and I'm a pretty big Pearl Jam fan, so he's a little bit more critical about it, but in a fair way. People can still love their... I don't like people that are blindly following and blindly in love with their favorite artists because it's who they are, not necessarily because the music's quality. We're going to break down throughout all these podcasts. We're going to break down our favorite songs, and today we have chosen Jeremy, based off the story of Jeremy Waddell mainly, but it was based off two different Jeremys. Jeremy Waddell from Texas, when Eddie Vedder was looking through the paper, and he was reading the story, and it inspired him because it reminded him of a Jeremy he knew growing up that was considered very troubled. And you can see throughout the music video, the character of Jeremy is based off two of them, and he's got two different personalities. The Jeremy Waddell, his mom spoke out for the very first time in 2018 that he was not. Oh, I did not even know that. He was not necessarily troubled. He was actually a very gifted artist, and he committed suicide for an unknown reason. The reason is still unknown to this day, because even his classmates would never have, they wouldn't have labeled him as horribly depressed to the brink of suicide. But when you see him thrashing around in the forest in the music video, that is, I can't remember the name of the Jeremy that Eddie Vedder knew, but that was his...
I bet it's Jeremy.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good guess. That's a different type of troubled that he was being that was depicted there. But let's focus on Jeremy Waddell. January 8th, 1991, Richardson High School in Richardson, Texas. Jeremy shot himself in front of his English class, hence the great hook, Jeremy spoke in class today.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah, I love that. Or is that the chorus?
No, I would call it the chorus because, it doesn't really have like your standard chorus. I guess King Jeremy the Wicked rules his world. And then right after that, you have Jeremy spoke in class today. I knew a little bit about his background, but you've done...
What's that section called? Jeremy spoke in class, or King Jeremy the Wicked. It's the pre-chorus. It's not the pre-chorus, is it? Or is that called the pre-chorus?
I don't know, because it's a very unique song with a very unique flow to it. I don't know. I don't know like the terminology when it comes to music like that, but to me it doesn't matter. It's just a really good song, and we're just talking about the meaning behind it. And you've done far more research than I have. I knew that it was about a Jeremy who shot himself right in front of all of his classmates. When we were watching the music video for the first time as really young teens, I thought at the end, when all the kids were covered in blood, I thought he had shot them all.
That's what I thought too. Oh, wow. Because we probably watched the uncensored version first.
I don't think so, actually, because when I remember watching the version, and I just see him close his eyes. I'm like, wait, what's he doing? Is he like aiming blindly? And then I finally found the uncensored version. I don't know when, and I realized that he had, in the uncensored version of the music video, he puts the gun in his mouth, and I'm like, oh dang, like that's dark completely. Even for MTV.
In the censored version, you see him pulling something, and and for some reason I knew he was taking a gun from his waistband. And you can tell it's pretty heavy for him, because then he kind of slumps a little because of how heavy it is. And
you know what he's pulling out of his pants.
Exactly.
And it's not, yeah. Oh, I should watch how I say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, this is a serious subject. Yeah, and when you see the kids covered in blood, but then you don't see they're all holding their arms up together, and that's when I'm like, when I'm younger, I'm like, he didn't shoot them. Like it looks like he shot them, but he didn't shoot them because when he was slumped over for a more
they're covered
picture.
in his blood, and I think like the music video, something I didn't agree with was that they were trying to imply that that his blood was on their hands, and I'm like, that doesn't really sound like. What that doesn't really fit with the context of the song. Like when you look at the lyrics, like daddy didn't give affection and the boy was something that mommy wouldn't wear, or like daddy didn't give attention to the fact that mommy didn't care. I mean, it's not the kid's fault.
It's such a deep subject because people are depressed in different ways. Some people are merely chemically depressed, and they live normal lives, but they just can't do anything about it without medication. Other people are situationally depressed, which is probably what this Jeremy was, and maybe a combination of two as well. I've had seasonal depression before, but I've never had clinical depression. I've never been diagnosed with that. So I've only had a glimpse into that world. I will never claim to know what the true impact is.
No, yeah, absolutely.
It's got to be a combination of things because people that are considered troubled, people that are considered weird, naturally get picked on by kids, especially he was almost 16, 15, 16, like really 13 to
way too
to
friggin'
16
young.
is a particularly brutal time for kids because they don't know the impact of their behavior just yet. It makes me think of our classmate, and I won't give last names, but you remember our classmate Jay.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, so she had some, disorders, and I don't want to go into too many specifics, but we can tell that everyone treated her differently. At first, some people in our class, I know, picked on her or talked behind her back. But then I remember when our teacher, Mrs. Lee, talked about, what was going on with her, the conversation changed. And especially, this was 1991 for the death of Jeremy Wade Dell, his suicide. And so the conversation of mental health was just radically different. Like you didn't have those mental health matters shirts that you see all the time.
Yeah, it wasn't nearly as how would I say it? It wasn't nearly as talked about in the 90s because Columbine High School was 1999, April 1999, and you would just think, "Oh wow, what monsters." But it's like, no, they got something seriously wrong in their heads. And so I think that things like this always spark conversation because there always has to be an event or a situation that happens in order to get people talking about it because we don't just automatically know.
Isn't that just the sad part of it too? Like it takes
kids are
like this for a real conversation to happen.
Kids are really brutal because all they do is see differences and then they move in and they either play with it or make fun of it or maybe they even sympathize with it sometimes. But once our teacher started talking about our classmates' disorders, it's like, oh wow, I did not know that. Wow, I should really, really stop talking about her like this. And I mean, that's, I think, where am I going with this? That really changed the tone, and I think that really changed our treatment of her because we got to spend a couple of days at her house when we were doing that project for literature. Oh
yeah.
Literature class. Do you remember that? Yeah, where we were dressed up like gangsters.
I remember.
And I got to shoot some people.
We were doing a video with my then girlfriend about Al Capone, maybe.
It was definitely about Prohibition era gangsters.
Gangsters, yeah.
1920s, yeah. But she was I just remember her being really, really cool, and her family was really chill, and her dad was huge. Yeah, he's a tall man.
Her dad was the classic stereotypical biker.
Yeah, he really was.
He was teaching us swears in Spanish.
Yeah. That was fun and intimidating. Yeah. And then we ate really, really, really good pizza.
Big heart. And that's when people don't... And I don't want this to go on to a specific conversation about depression and suicide, but yeah, when... It's not going to be shocking that all you have to do is just treat people like they're human, but that's not what necessarily this podcast is about. That can absolutely be a different conversation for later.
You're right, but it's what the podcast has led to. Because what this story was what this story is inspired, because it's a song about a kid who committed suicide for seemingly little to no reason in front of other children.
Yes. And I'll say this before we just move on back into the song is like, if you're feeling like there's no way out other than to end your own life, call 1-800-273-8255. That number is 1-800-273-8255.
Someone really needs to write a song about it.
Yeah, specifically a guy who always talks about how biracial he is.
Yeah.
The music video, according to Parade magazine, the music video is considered the 7th greatest music video of all time.
Now that I didn't know. I did not know that.
I just I knew it was so shocking and so powerful that I looked it up, and I all I did was this morning was like, I bet it's considered in the top 10 on someone's list of music videos. And it was the second link I clicked on. It was considered the 7th greatest music video by Parade. The first link I clicked on was specifically hip-hop music.
Now, understand, this is Parade.
Yeah, it is Parade. Rolling Stone would have a little bit more pull for this podcast, but I really think Rolling Stone does. They kind of have their own definition of certain things that a lot of people disagree with.
Did you know there's technically...
No,
Did you know there's technically two music videos for this song?
Censored and uncensored?
No, not censored and uncensored. There are 2 music videos, 2 completely different music videos.
Really?
Like, if you ever get the time to look it up, the other music video is so different. Like, it's just black and white flashes of brief images, and in the end, where it's where he finally completes suicide, they don't show him doing it. All they do is flash a gun on screen, bring it across the screen, and then it ends. Yeah, it's really different, but I like the official video more.
Okay, well, I'm definitely gonna have to look at that. That sounds familiar. I think I may have seen it before. Is it like a lot of video of them playing their instruments?
Briefly, Jeff Ament gets like a spotlight on him at the very end with that bass crawl that ends the song, and it spotlight and then blacks out when he's done. But like in the official music video during that bass crawl, it's the hanging metallic shooting target.
That's wow. I always thought that was a blackboard, but the way that they depict the suicide in the music video, the uncensored music video, I guess both of them, but I prefer the uncensored because it just shows it, where it just hints at it in the first one. They could show the gun going off, like the trigger being pulled, and then the students, but I like how the music builds up, and then the drums go, and then when they hit and choke the crash cymbal, they go 64 degrees and cloudy in a fluent suburb, and it just sets the setting, kind of like a news anchor would on TV. That's such a, and I really like how they do that, because it really is just a normal. It's just a normal suburb for most. Not for Richardson High School. Jeremy Dell, he was the 3rd student to commit suicide at that high school. Not at the high school, but the 3rd student of that school to commit
that attended the high
that
school.
Year
Yeah, jeez Louise.
Yeah,
and you got to realize, like, you got to start thinking there must be a problem with this environment. Like, what is it that is driving its students to do something like complete suicide?
Maybe not necessarily. I mean, it could be something else, but like, there's got. I think INO setting definitely has something to do with it, like, because coaches, managers, those are the number one reason people leave teams and leave jobs, and it very well could be more effective than that for large groups of students who are not understanding when it comes to certain problems.
That's true. Like, you and I went to
harassment is the number one reason people leave schools. And
yeah, you and I went to a very, very small high school. Yeah, you and I went to like, we graduated with 44 kids. Like, we went to a very small school, less than 300 kids. We have no idea what it's like to be at a public school where it's like 2,000 kids. Like, if when you have a bigger population of students, of course, it's a higher probability that some of those kids are experiencing something that would want them to attempt suicide, that would make them want to attempt suicide. So, I mean, I'm assuming that this school that Jeremy Dell went to was probably public. Can I assume that this Richardson High School was public?
Well, I mean,
Because, I mean, they showed uniforms in the music video. So that kind of seems to imply that it was a private school. But of course, that was just the music video. So I found out it's a magnet school, which means it's public and it's specialized. Like it focuses on certain subject areas.
Yeah, it's and not that matters. It can happen to anyone. Just out of curiosity,
absolutely.
What it actually is.
Yeah, just with a public school, you have a larger population.
Yeah. The music video does a beautiful job of showing, I mean, it's two different Jeremys that are influencing the style of the kind of storytelling within the music video, and they do a good job of showing a mix of its home life and its school life. So it's kind of inescapable for the Jeremy character in the music video because, you know, as the lyrics were saying, the parents kind of sounded a little distant.
They didn't care.
A distant.
A lot of distant. They didn't care about it.
And the
it's like, oh my gosh, that's right, we're parents. There's I just saw this kid run upstairs. I'm like, who's that? Oh wait, we're mom and dad.
Yeah, exactly. You think you wouldn't have to say it, but sometimes you do. And then at the school, you see
they show all the kids laughing at him.
Yeah, they had still
brutally.
images that I liked, and then what was it was a flash of a still image when they were saying the Pledge of Allegiance. They were saluting Hitler, and then so they flash that. Then they go back to them with their hands over their hearts. And then they come back to it and they actually show them raising their hands up to salute Hitler in the music video. And I thought that was kind of a brilliant.
The music video is just so subtly brilliant. You're right. I thought that was a wasted opportunity to change the flag in the background to the swastika and then go back to the American flag. That's just my little critique about it artistically, but the music video is beautiful and really impactful. And you mentioned how it flashed like news clips, like affluent suburb,
like
64
newspaper clippings.
Yeah, that's how they start the video too. And I don't know if you know this, but when Eddie Vedder, the lead singer, was talking about why he wrote the song, he says like, he was so impacted by this kid's story. You get one paragraph in a newspaper for ending your life and it's it. And it's back to regular life. Like you give it all away. You literally end your own life. That's done. You are eternally away from this earth now. And all you get is a clipping in the newspaper and then it's back to regular life for everybody else. And I just thought it was a beautiful idea in the music video to show the clippings at the beginning and then at the end. Because the middle is his story, and then it's over, and it's back to business as usual.
You know,
so stinking deep. Good for you, Eddie Vedder. Like, I have to applaud you for this song, for the music video, and whoever directed the music video. I need to take my hands off. I need to shake your hands. That's what I need to do.
Depending on the population size of the township that you're in,
we're back to this.
are only ever like half a page to 2 pages. Maybe sometimes 3, but everyone gets 1 or 2 paragraphs, or maybe less. And it is interesting the way that a human life, a human soul, can leave this earth, and sometimes nobody gives a shit, even if you end it tragically, like Jeremy Dell, and that is very telling of our society. It's telling of the media, but realistically, how deep can you go into it before it's just like, you know, these are only details that the family would know, and like someone from across the city is not going to know who this person is, and they need to know other relevant news. But it is a can of worms. Let's not go into it.
But it does lead to a conversation about other songs about suicide, like Neon Gravestones from 21 Pilots. Tyler Joseph goes into it, like how like we need to stop celebrating suicide of famous figures. Like, we need to stop it. He's saying like, we're gonna hang the banner from the ceiling because he killed himself. Like, no, you're glorifying suicide. You're encouraging suicide. In the lyrics of that song, he says like, they want to turn this epidemic into a form of a weapon, into a form of aggression. Like, I'm gonna use suicide to get back at my bullies. Like, no, don't do that. You know, get back at your bullies by living a good life. And like being better than them. And so I think something as deep as this topic that we're talking about, Connor, like it leads into other songs and other artistic interpretations and expressions of the idea of committing suicide.
I like that. I like that idea that they have, neon gravestones. I have not heard that song, but I like what you described. I think it's kind of interesting the way that there are a couple of songs that really start off as a flash of light to a music listener in the void of nothingness that can sometimes be music. Just imagine a person floating around in a black, empty void, and then you hear the guitar start of a certain song. It's a flash of light, and you're like, oh, there is hope. I'm going to go float over there and see what that's all about. For me, that's Shine On You Crazy Diamond, Pink Floyd, Purple Haze, Jimi Hendrix, and the opening bass of Jeremy by Pearl Jam. Those,
I mean, yeah. Those
way
those
they
songs
set
are
the
so
mood with
heavy
the
and
bass,
deep.
in the beginning of the song.
It's so brilliant. Jeff gets, like, we got to give Jeff Ament more credit for that bass crawl. Everybody knows that. Like, at least everybody born in like the mid '80s and earlier knows that.
Yeah, I think anyone who wants to have some serious nerd cred for music nerd cred, they need to know that opening bass line. And that's kind of what I think I remember you were starting to teach yourself bass. And when we heard that, we're like, hey, there's music where you can hear the bass.
I'm gonna learn that.
You and I were listening to some cheesy classic rock and some cheesy pop from the 70s and from the 2000s, and the bass doesn't really get enough love. And then you hear some grunge and you're like, oh wow, it growls.
I remember when going back to Guitar Hero, hearing Even Flow on Guitar Hero and playing it for the first time. I'm like, whoa, I didn't know music could be angry. And then like that really resonated with me, especially going into middle school. Like, wow, music can be angry? For some reason, I'm angry all the time. And little did I realize I was just a boy going through puberty.
Yeah, just all this tension and this like, oh, I need to hit something.
Yeah, I think I told you that Pearl Jam's 10 is the first album I bought myself. When we were at Half Price Bookstore, I was looking through the cassettes. I pull off this very pink and purple looking album with some hands on it, and I turn it over, and I'm like, Even Flow, I know that song. I'm gonna buy this for 50 cents.
Was it 50 cents? Holy crap!
It was only because it was used, and it was only 50 cents, and it's a freaking cassette, like they're garbage. And so I paid 50 cents for my garbage, and I go home and I play it, 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 and Dad gets tired of me playing it.
Yeah, Dad, I know Dad hates a lot of Pearl Jam because we sort of ruined it for him.
We destroyed it for him.
I think that's probably also Cage the Elephant's debut album, Cage the Elephant. I think he also hates that album now because we ruined it for him, really.
I think it's Back Against the Wall specifically. We ruined for him.
Yes, yeah. But it's why is their depiction of this song better than other depictions, or not depictions of the song?
When it comes to suicide,
the suicide better than other depictions of it, and I think a lot of that it has to do with it being grunge, and grunge is supposed to talk about really deep, serious mental issues. And I think there's a lot of this bubblegum pop that the artists aren't really able, they're not even allowed to go into these deep, serious issues sometimes because, it's not sellable.
Well, depending on the genre that you're in.
Yeah, depending on, and that's one thing that's really alluring to grunge. And I think the way that the people, unfortunately, are going to remember that situation. I was looking through the YouTube comments of the song, and I was scrolling for a long time, and I got to this girl who was saying, yeah, I'm in this school. I'm in Richardson right now. I'm a senior in high school, and it was last year or something like that. And I have English in that class where it happened. Nobody talks about it. And one of the comments to her initial comment, one of the replies to it was, I was a senior when that happened at that very school. I heard the shot. unfortunately, people are going to remember that. And the way...
If he's telling the truth, yeah.
Yeah, the tone of the song, I think, because it's grunge, better matches the situation than other genres could, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and just... I think the platform that they had, too, like, their music video was dark. Not only, like, aesthetically, but it was also, like, thematically dark because it was about a bullied student at school who had no support from home, who finally decides to end it all. And it was beautifully directed, and then it also aired on MTV when they actually were good. And millions of people got to see it. Like, what other songs from that era got that big of a platform about suicide? Like Ozzy Osbourne or Soundgarden, Cleaning My Gun. Like, no, they're not going to make something like... They're not going to have an amazing music video about those two songs, but specifically... And there's a lot of different songs out there about suicide. Pearl Jam's not the first to do it, but they definitely were, at the time, the best to do it.
We're not saying
this is my personal opinion.
Songs about suicide that are not nearly as good. I mean, there's plenty of people that are going to say, no, such and such song from such and such artist is way better. No, we're just saying
1-800.
This is our music that we love, that we're breaking down. It's our opinion. Everyone else's opinion is completely valid unless it sucks. I
mean, I really like Logic's 1-800. And I really like that it ends with hope.
Logic at all.
I know. He had one good album, in my opinion, but the song is really amazing. The music video is beautiful, and it ends with hope. But I think he's the last person to make a song about suicide like that affected me as much as Pearl Jam's Jeremy did.
I think there's something insincere about ending with hope. I like that there are songs like about suicide that end with hope because we need hope. Hope's all we got.
I was gonna say, where are you going with this? You don't like that it ended with hope?
There is something insincere about it for a large majority of people that are going through that because, I mean, I like that in the 90s. I mean, rock and roll is inherently anti-establishment. That's just the way it is. But in it's got to be more. I think it's better in the 90s because that's really the last decade where I think rock and roll actually was fighting against the man. And it was a very, very... The 90s were still kind of conservative overall for American society. And when they end the video with him pulling a child, not even 16 years old, pulling a trigger, and that's how they end it, showing this is the reality of it. I think it hits a little bit better because I like that. I mean, I like that songs end with hope, but it's just a blunter reality of the situation. And
I can see why you think that for sure, Connor.
And I'm not saying they shouldn't write songs with hope at the end about suicide, but
I mean, when it comes to like you're trying to help like this crisis end, yeah, you might want to write.
There's something that lights a fire under your ass when it ends with a gritty reality. Like if you're gonna make a song about insert tragedy, Virginia Tech or something like that. If you end it with everyone, hunky-dory at the end, you're going to be like, oh, you know what? I guess it did end up okay. And everything's okay now. I'm sure it's okay. I'm not sure if it's great, but at least it's functional and stable right now. But back then, I mean, people died. And if you write a music video about the ending with the cops seeing all the bodies of college students, then you're going to more likely spark an action. Do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. It's more of a revelation when it's like the cover has been like pulled away and like this is the reality of the situation. Because I mean, these events, like it doesn't happen to everybody. They are in very isolated situations. Most shootings last only a couple of minutes. Like, how many Americans truly have experienced something like this firsthand? So I think for a lot of people, it wakes them up, especially those who haven't gone through it. You're like, oh my God, that actually happens? Like a maniac walks into a college and like kills 30 people? Like, what should I do? Like, how do I react to this? How do I help? And I mean...
What Pearl Jam did with Jeremy is they depicted the home life and the student, like the school life. And as long as you're and that's a very good way of showing two different perspectives of it through one character based off two people. But if you at least depict all of the points of view, you're going to help us viewers get an accurate representation of what actually happened. So very few Americans are experiencing what it's like to go through a shooting, and there's so many of us that have questions. We don't know everything, but we're damn well going to have an opinion about it. As long as you get the actuality of it, then you can start having a true, effective discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I really got to credit this to Pearl Jam. I think they did it the best first. Like talking about this, and you're absolutely right. Like I think rock and roll has actually become establishment. It has become establishment friendly. The 90s and early 2000s, that was its last breath. Like, how do you get more anti-establishment than Rage Against the Machine or Blink-182? And then now all of these songs are like about like go vote for my candidate. You know, and it's it's about different things in society that it's like, be on my side. Like you have become the establishment. I've watched you become the establishment.
I can agree to that to a certain extent. I think I can see where you're coming from, at least. The message, you have to, in order to effectively convey a message, you actually have to appeal to pretty much everyone. And when you have a song like Jeremy, nobody is against it. I like how you depict a certain situation. You don't call any one person out. You make it as not as vague as possible, but you make it as accurate as possible and as understanding as possible, and everyone can get behind. We do not need any more 15-year-olds shooting themselves in front of their English class. At least there's that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's just wrap this up. Thank you so much for listening to us ramble about a really great song, one of our favorite songs of all time. One of
Go
our
listen to it.
Favorite songs.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Pearl Jam, for creating a masterpiece, and thank you.
Beautiful.
Who's the director of Jeremy? I'm looking that up right now, even though it's kind of unprofessional.
There were two, because there were two music videos. Remember that.
Oh, I'm going to look up the good one. Mark Pellington. Well, thank you, Mark Pellington, for creating a masterpiece, even though you weren't even necessarily a Pearl Jam fan. Yep. All right. My name's Connor. With me is Tyler. Normally Clark would be with us, but he had work today, so we'll record many, many more episodes where all three of us are on. Thank you for listening. Go check out Rocket Bomb, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.